Well, welcome to a new Harry's Farm video, and there's lots to cover in this one. First of all, harvest is done, it's finished. We finished that last week, that's the good news, and combine is back home. We've been sorting that out. I'm going to go run through some combine costs, and I'm also going to show you, I've dug a hole in a field to see what we're battling with and why, when I go into the numbers on harvest 2025, why they're as bad as they turned out to be. Right, first of all, in the grain shed, well, this is my pile of wheat, and it's dry. It has good bushel weight. I'm still waiting actually for the results to come back. They went off about 4 days ago in the lab, still haven't done them, but I can tell that it's good quality, it's heavy spec weight, which means when you fill a trailer, it's heavier than a normal year. It's just dense, and that's great news because you basically get more on the lorry. But this pile is not very big. The combine says it's 165 tonnes. I think it's near 170 tonnes. And last year's harvest was 670 tonnes. Now, that was the produce of 100 hectares. This year, because we entered those environmental schemes, we were down to 44 hectares of wheat. But if I had the same yield in 2025 as we experienced with the wheat in 2024, there should be 300 tonnes here, and there's 170 tonnes. Massive shortfall. And this is the shock for all the farmers in my area around here where we just didn't get rain. Our yields are absolutely on the floor, gone to levels we never knew was possible to achieve. We had a really bad yield in 2020 because of that was the really hot sunny year when we're all in lockdown. It was that beautiful summer and we didn't get much yield that time, but it was nothing like as bad as it has been in 2025. And I'll show you the soil profile when we go outside, and that will tell a few more stories about why it's so bad. If we've got 300 tonnes and we've got 170 tonnes, that shortfall is 130 tonnes and is about £165 a tonne at the moment. That is a shortfall of £21,000 on the cash flow. I knew it was never going to hit budget levels. As soon as we had that horrible wet autumn last year, and then it stopped raining basically in March, April and May, I knew it was going to be bad, but not this bad. So a real shock. Now, if you're wondering what's going on in here, these are fans that are put in. So these are pedal stools that we put in the wheat, and normally you have several as you go down the building. This year we only need 2 because we only got 170 tonnes. And they go down to the floor, and these suck air through the heat. They don't blow air into the heat, they suck. It's more efficient that way. And because we combine everything dry again, you have to get it below 15% for mills and feed merchants to take the wheat. You can do that quite easily with the size of combine we have, and we just go in mid-afternoon and combine it below 15%. That isn't the issue. The only issue is that it's quite warm when we're combining, and I want to cool it down, and that reduces any risks of bugs coming in and things like that, and the grain mills have a temperature requirement as well. So these fans are not running, as you can tell. It's nice and quiet in here. I run them for the first 48 hours just continuously, just to aerate the grain, and then I switch them by this clever thing on box on top to only come on if it's below 18 degrees C. So I want that cool evening air to go through the grain and just cool the grain. Now, what's peculiar with 2025 is normally if you get low yields, you get the price move up because there's a shortage. What's happening in the grain trade at the moment is it's a global trade, and what's happening in the UK doesn't matter. It hardly makes any impression on the global wheat market. So the price has not moved since we've all discovered we had these terrible yields. I ought to just say on terrible yields, it's not right across the country. There are areas of the southwest, on the Chalk Downs, up north, Scotland, having fantastic yields. It's the centre of the UK where it's bad. So it's a very odd year, but it is very localised where the bad yields is. But we just haven't seen the price improved. And it's a real frustration because we're now at a price where it's not economic to grow a food crop on this farm in 2025. We have lost around £6,160 over growing costs, just the cost of nitrogen sprays, seed, minus 6,160 that I have to find for somewhere else. Right, the fan is just starting up. That'll just go in the background. It has got the grain down to about 17 degrees C. That's what the temperature of the grain is here. When I put it in, it was about 22%. It will calm down in a minute. But yeah, lots to explain. I think I'll move away because it's too noisy and we'll just quickly go outside. We're going to have a look at the combine because I've been busy on that. Just a mention for this door, Latham steel door, had it fitted. I don't know, it's one of those things, every time I go in that grain shed, I just say, that's a good door. I just can't get over the price, the fact you get the whole surround and you can just put the door in and it just swings beautifully and it's all hung. And I keep thinking, I must find somewhere else to use those doors. But let's go to what's happening out here. The combine. What a year we've had with this. It's been a frustrating year because harvest came early and then we had those issues early on and you think, what is going on? Then, once we got going with combining, we had that one bar, and I know in the last video everybody is saying, oh, breakdowns, look after maintenance. This combine does 55-60 hours a year normally, and if you look back at its history, it was doing 200 hours a year. That's a normal sort of amount of a combine works on the farms for this size of combine. 50 to 60 is nothing, and this year the rotor hours, as we term it, which tells you how much work the combine has done, is not 55 to 60 hours, it is 14 hours, 1-4, nothing. Harvest this year took 3 afternoons. That was the speed we were travelling. That was how little crop there was out there. That is tiny. And I was just extremely unfortunate for that belt to go. Well, first of all, we had the header and we had that wire to fix on the header. And it just takes more hours than it should to track down it's precisely where the damage is, and then you fix it, and then you've got to run it up and check everything's all right. And then it threw that belt. If I had known how bad harvest was going to be in 25, I might not have replaced that belt because it wasn't actually broken, it had just thrown a belt and it looked a bit worn. And the sensible thing was to change it, but it was quite a lot of hours to change. It was complicated because they didn't send the right belt out, and hindsight's a fantastic thing. I think I could have got by with that belt through this harvest, but I did not know that when we replaced that belt, how bad it was. And then the other thing was that bar at the front. Now that was a real one-off. So this is, everybody's saying, oh, we should have spotted that bar that was fractured. This is a bar, this is the header feeder, and there was a crack the other side of the link there. Where that bolt goes in, there was a crack here because someone previously had, it had come off and they'd welded it and then it had cracked on the weld. The only way I could have checked, it was actually this side, sorry. The only way I could have checked that had a crack in it prior to harvest was if I decided to strip the whole of this feeder down, undone a link with an angle grinder and rolled it out in front of me. He said, well, there's no cracks in it. You are not going to do that on a machine doing supposedly 40-50 hours a year. That was just unfortunate. And the positive thing on it, we heard it immediately, it broke off and stopped the combine. Sometimes that bar can break off and then go into the belly of the combine and do a mighty amount of damage. We stopped it early, as soon as we heard it, didn't go in the combine, got it fixed the next day. And that's just one of those things that combines do. But yeah, so what we've done, we have spent 2 days blowing this combine off with this compressor, which is a miserable job. Because there's dust everywhere, but we wanted to get it clean. I have then washed it, and I'm quite proud of how good it all looks. Can't remember, this is this is its 8th season, this combine, but now We have every bit of grain out of it. We've run through it. Yeah, it was an interesting year, to say the least. I might just open this one up as well. We washed it this time just because there was dust build up behind sort of sheets and things, and I just view it as a fire risk, really. You've got every now and then to clean it down, and because we've finished in August combining, which is much earlier than normal, then it's good, and it will completely dry out. Because if you do it in October, November and it's damp, yeah, it doesn't get all the moisture, doesn't all get out, and we'll run it. So that is the combine ready to put away. Header here, we've washed this down as well. I haven't washed the reel or the knife. My next job on this is just to spray all the bright metal bit here. I just go around with ACF 60, the anti-rust spray. I will put all that on once it's completely dried out in the sun. Today's meant to be 24, 25 degrees, and then that will overwinter. Yeah, combine costs though, I was looking. Up until this season, we'd spent £24,827 on repairs and servicing on the combine. We spent £7,500, so we're at £32,327 to date for 8 seasons of combining with this combine. Divide that by the number of acres it's combined, which is 2,075 acres, is £15.58 an acre for servicing and breakdown costs. Depreciation I put at 26,000, is now at £12.53 an acre, making a total of £28.11 actual costs for this combine per acre it has combined. And I remind you again that a contract charge for a combine with chop is £52 an acre. So I could get rid of the combine if I wanted to, but I come back to the timeliness bit. Still no dry, never dried any wheat here since this arrived. And I also look at it, it's the father and son thing. I enjoy doing it with Charlie. I've got a whole load of daft cars sitting in the shed that are twice the value of this combine. It's the one enjoyment. I do like this combine. I do find pleasure in actually combining my own ground, and I'm determined to keep the combine as long as I have it for while we're combining wheat. And that bit I'm just starting to ponder how long we will be growing wheat if the current economic situation continues. It is definitely marginal on the acreage we are now combining. The fact we've dropped right down 44 hectares of wheat for the next few years while I'm in these environmental schemes that end at the end of 28, it's very marginal. But what I'm thinking, I just want clarity. There's so much noise going on, such a bad year in 25. I don't want to do a knee-jerk reaction. I think we'll have a clearer picture of how the world is operating in 2028. And that is when whether this combine stays or goes will be the decision. But anyway, let's go to this field where I've just dug a hole. So I have this excavator and I want to show you what is underground and why yields in this area were so low in 2025. Yeah, this excavator, my goodness, that's done some work on this farm. I bought it, I think, in about 2003 or 4, and I got it because we had sort of work to do on the farm, trees to put in. I've got a drill that goes on the front that can drill holes, and we put gate posts in, or trees as we did initially. But oh my goodness, they're useful things to have around. And it dug all the foundation of the house, fencing, all sorts of things. But I've just dug a hole here to illustrate what we're up against on this farm. And I know a lot of people say, oh, you ought to get a stoner, take all that stone out. This is just something you live with in the Cotswolds. If you're on Cotswold brash, stone content is just, that's what you're dealing with, and you get used to it. But I don't think a lot of people realise just how much stone there is in it. And this is quite a relatively powerful excavator. It's 4.5 tonner excavator, so it's got pretty good power, and it struggles pretty early on. So if I go into my pit here, where you can see the sort of soil profile, the bit we're working is all this ground here. There is loose stone in it. But as I dig down, and that there is about a foot down. And at a foot down, I then get a completely solid layer of stone. There you go. And I have to break through that to actually go below it. And I need a big excavator to do it. And you can see the amount of stone you get. And a wheat plant, it's a clever thing, a wheat plant, but it can't put its roots right down. It comes up against basically concrete at about a foot down, and that is the Cotswold brash. It has a layer underneath. We've just got this topsoil on top of it. It's not right across the farm, this, but this is extremely common. The vast majority of the soil is like this, with this concrete layer of stone at about a foot down. There you go, there's the profile. This easy work, well, relatively easy, full of stone chips, that solid. And it's a battle. And when you get a year like we've had, wheat's got no chance, because it's only got the moisture in that first foot of soil to be able to get moisture out of the soil, because it just can't penetrate its roots further down. In a dry year, a wheat plant might have gone down, but what happened in 24, we forget how wet it was this time last year. There was about 50 mil of rain in August 24. This year we've had 2.3 mil. We are going to get some apparently end of the week coming. September was 184 mil of rain. We had 104 mil in one day in September. October was equally wet, 80 some. November, bit drier. December, January, ridiculous amounts of rain. So you've got this wheat plant that was drilled in not very good conditions. No need to put roots down for moisture because it's just a deluge coming from on top. So you didn't have a particularly deep root structure in the wheat going into 2025. And then someone turned the tap off at the end of February and said, well, that's your lot, mate. And we had, in this area, just on 70 mil of rain throughout the growing season. And then we had some in July, but it was too late for the wheat. That had done and dusted. We were combining, so it became a nuisance for combining rather than anything for the crop. And the combination of no roots put down in 24 autumn winter period into 25, and then no rain during grain field tillering, etc., meant, in my view, the wheat never put the fertile tillers out. So when I was looking at the crop in June, July, before harvest, I was impressed by the size of the actual grains, but there weren't enough wheat heads. The plant had switched off the fertile tillers. So if you'd done a wheat head count per square metre, it was roughly half what a normal season in. And you really noticed it on the combine. The field looked vaguely normal as you're combining, but if you sat on the combine, there just wasn't the volume of wheat heads coming into the belly of the combine. And that's when you knew, uh-oh, we've got no yield here. So it's a combination of two things. Not only the drought that killed yields, and we're around 4 tonnes a hectare here, if that, it was actually the horrendous autumn in the planting season and into 24. And I had that saying, which I've used before, is well sown, half grown. The thing that went wrong right from the start is we didn't do the well sown bit. When we actually put it in the ground, it was pretty iffy conditions and it never got any better, and then the drought. So yeah, that's what happened with wheat, and that is why the yield are so low. But I've got I've got to find basically £6,160 from another business to make up the shortfall of the actual growing costs for the wheat that we've just combined. But that means there's no surplus for anything else. You know, if I was looking, we've spent 7,000 odd on repairs, insurance, farm insurance about 12,000 and a bit. There's 20,000 gone. Where's the money coming for that? And all round, all farmers, I was just saying the same. I have no excess income that I can invest in the farm. What are we doing? I want gutters to do, I've got repairs to do on the drive. It's all these normal jobs that quietly happen in the background. You're just unfortunately battling with your banks. So you've got 3 years, in my case, bad years, and you're not very popular with the bank, and you're thinking, oh, this has got to get better. And the crazy thing is, we go off and do it all over again. So I have already invested in next year's crops, and I was looking at the costs on that. I've already gone round with that subsoiler. That was my choice. It's an expensive operation, but I want to break up this soil that has laid so wet for the last 12 months until we got this dry period, but it just was not in a good condition, machinery on top. I think it will benefit from being lifted. So we've done that at around £30 an acre to do, because it's high horsepower job. I've bought a different variety of seed. We're going to be growing something called Bamford going forward in the next year. That's a soft wheat. We'll see how we get on with that. It's got slightly higher yield potential. And nitrogen prices have rocked up from where I purchased them September last year, about £280 a tonne. We're at about 380, so that's gone up significantly. Those two things have added about £100 to the growing cost per hectare thing. So last year it cost us roughly £800 a hectare to grow a crop. Next year it'll be £900 a hectare. And if we get another year like we experienced in 25, I seriously have to question, why do I continue growing food crops? I'm losing money, proper money, from doing something that the farm you expect it to do. And I'm thinking, well, why are the grain prices so low? Food price inflation is high. It's 37% up since lockdown. My grain price has gone down 22% in the intervening period. So it does not make sense how food prices are doing that, wheat prices doing that. And I just thought I'd have a look. Who's making the money? It's certainly not the grower anymore. We're below cost for this harvest. The grain merchant, I sold it through ADM pool. They lost money last year. For Sender, it goes to chicken feed, my stuff. They lost money as well in 24, 25 accounts. And then you look at Tesco and you look at the supermarkets, 3.1 billion profit Tesco made. They all got increase in profits. And it's crazy that we've got this food price inflation, but it's not at the grower level. The grower is thinking, I'm going to give up soon if this price carries on. And yet you've got food price inflation and you've got the supermarkets making record profits. Something somewhere is broken. The only way I can change the cycle, and basically I'm selling at a discounted wholesale price that is just doesn't cover growing costs, I've either got to go to some system like my neighbour Jeremy, where I'm selling the actual produce in a consumer-friendly form, i.e. bread, meat at his farm shop, or his beer, Hawkstone lager, very good lager, from his spring barley. So he's actually added value that way. But me, growing crops to supply into the food chain in 2025 was a complete waste of time and loss making. And if you want an illustration of what the farmer is receiving from Tesco selling a loaf of bread, average selling price of an 800 gram loaf of bread, 138. Farmer out of that 138 receives 11 pence. If he received 2 pence more, 13 pence, the whole business of growing wheat would be transformed in the UK. It would become proper again, and the price of the loaf would go from 138 to 140. Would the consumer notice? I don't think so, but Tesco look after the profits and farmers continue to lose money. It's a mad world at the moment. Now, it's very different if you move to the livestock sector and milk production away from wheat. Wheat is a globally traded commodity, and it's easy to move, and you put it in boats and you ship it about, and the wheat price is decided globally by traders sitting in New York, London, wherever. It's just a commodity, and they look at trends. If you move to livestock, in the UK, obviously we have the livestock markets. There is a more active, more regional price of meat traded, and that is why the price has moved up as the actual number of cattle in the UK falls and consumption is rising, because it's becoming increasingly seeing the benefit of meat and how good it is for you because of all the trace elements. And also with milk, we're seeing a massive rise in butter consumption and things, so it's all changed on that side. And they're a more local market UK. There's not people in New York trading what the milk price should be from the farmer producing milk in Somerset to actually getting to the consumer. It's a much shorter distance, nothing to do with global trade. It's much tighter control, and therefore they react to shortages and demand, and you get a price rise. That does not happen with cereals and wheat in particular. Anyway, there we go. We'll move on. 2026, lots of things changing. I've had the report from the Forestry Commission, what we're going to do on woods on the farm. We're going to be doing a lot of tree planting, a lot of other things happening this year. So that's the end of Harvest 2025. I'll do the final summary on numbers once it's actually moved off farm and I have the actual selling price and tonnage. But until then, we'll try and forget about it and move on to better things. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, keep watching, keep subscribing. More videos coming along very soon.